She told me I was too sensitive and that real men don't get upset when their girlfriends hang out at their ex's place. I agreed. Then I showed just how unbothered I could be by cutting off contact completely, and she was furious. My name is Richard. I am 31 and I work as a building inspector in Bristol. My week is a loop of early site visits, paperwork, and arguing with contractors who think regulations are suggestions. My girlfriend Amanda is 28 and works in PR for a small agency. We have been together a little over a year and a half. We do not live together, but she stays at my place most weekends and a couple nights during the week, so our lives overlap more than people would assume. The problem started as one of those small things you try not to make weird. Amanda has an ex named Kyle. They dated before me for about 3 years, and from what she told me it ended because they got bored and fought a lot. Fine. People have history. I never asked her to cut anyone off, and I have never gone through her phone. I have always been pretty direct about boundaries though, and Amanda knows that. A few weeks ago she mentioned, casually, that she was going to stop by Kyle's place after work to pick up a jacket she left there ages ago. The way she said it was almost like she was testing whether I would react. I asked why he still had her jacket and why she could not just meet him somewhere public, like a cafe near her office. She rolled her eyes so hard it felt practiced. She told me it was not a big deal, that I was being dramatic, and that it was easier to just swing by because he lived on her route home. Then she added this little smirk and said I was too sensitive. That real men do not get upset about stuff like that. She said it like she was doing me a favor by toughening me up. I did not argue that night. I just filed it away. Because once someone frames your discomfort as weakness, you stop having a normal conversation and start negotiating for basic respect. And I was not interested in negotiating. What I did next is why I am posting here. Because I agreed with her. I decided to be exactly the kind of unbothered she claimed she wanted. Amanda went to Kyle's flat that Thursday. She texted me at 18:12 saying she was heading there and added a laughing emoji, like this was all harmless. I responded with a thumbs up. No sarcasm. No follow-up questions. She came over to mine later that night around 10. She smelled like his cologne. I noticed because I own the same brand, and it is distinct. I did not comment. She kicked off her heels, dropped her bag on the kitchen counter, and asked why I was being weirdly quiet. I told her I was not. I was just tired from work. Which was true. I had spent the day arguing with a contractor who tried to bypass a safety requirement. Compared to that, this felt simple. Either I trusted what she was doing, or I did not. And if I did not, I had to act accordingly. She pushed again. She said I was clearly sulking, and that this was exactly what she meant about me being sensitive. I asked her directly if she stayed long. She said they had a drink and caught up. She said it like I should be proud of her maturity. I asked why a jacket pickup required drinks. She snapped that adults can have civil relationships with their exes, and that insecurity is unattractive. Then she repeated it. Real men do not get upset when their girlfriends hang out at their ex's place. That phrase stuck with me. Not because it hurt. Because it clarified something. She was not asking for trust. She was demanding that I suppress discomfort to prove masculinity. That is not the same thing. So I leaned into it. I told her she was right. I said I did not want to be that guy who polices her friendships. I said if she felt comfortable there, then that was fine. I even suggested she should not feel like she had to update me every time. Her expression changed slightly. Not relief. More like surprise. She said good, because she did not want a controlling boyfriend. I told her she did not have one. And from that moment, I stopped behaving like one in every possible way. The next evening, she texted me around 7 asking if she could come over. Normally, I would have said yes without thinking. That night, I told her I had plans. She asked what plans. I said I was meeting a mate for a drink. That part was not even strategic. I actually had arranged to see a friend from work. But the way she reacted was interesting. She immediately asked who. Then where. Then why I had not mentioned it earlier. I reminded her that adults can have civil relationships and spontaneous plans without it being suspicious. She did not like that. She sent back a short message saying I was being petty. When she showed up at my flat anyway around 9, I understood something clearly. This was not about freedom. It was about control. She knocked twice, then tried the handle like she expected it to be unlocked. I opened the door, but did not step aside to let her in. She asked what I was doing and walked forward like she always did. I stayed where I was. I told her I thought we should reset some things. She laughed, sharp and dismissive, and said I was still sulking about Kyle. I told her I was not upset. I was adjusting. If we were going to be the kind of couple who did not owe each other explanations, then that applied both ways. That also meant we were not defaulting to shared space whenever it suited one of us. She told me I was overreacting and tried to move past me again. I did not raise my voice. I simply said this is my flat, and tonight I am not having company. That is when the tone shifted. She called me dramatic, then controlling, then childish. I asked her calmly if she would prefer I act unbothered like she suggested. Because this is what unbothered looks like. No questions, no arguments, no emotional investment, just distance. She stood there for a second like she did not recognize me. Then she said fine, and that she would go somewhere she was actually wanted. I said okay, and I closed the door. I expected a few angry texts after I closed the door. That would have been normal. What I did not expect was the volume. By the time I walked back to the kitchen, my phone was already buzzing. 3 messages. Then 5. Then a missed call. The first one said I was being ridiculous. The second said I was punishing her for having friends. The third said I was insecure and proving her point. I did not respond. I read them once and put my phone face down on the counter. She called again. I let it ring out. Then a longer message came through saying she could not believe I would embarrass her like that, and that she had told her flatmate she was staying with me. That part annoyed me. Not because of the logistics, because she was framing this as something I owed her by default. Access to my space, my time, my availability. I replied once. I said I am not upset. I am simply stepping back. You said real men do not get bothered. I am not bothered. She responded almost instantly asking what that even meant. I did not answer. Instead, I went into my contacts and blocked her number. It was not dramatic. It was practical. If we were shifting to a model where independence meant no accountability, then I would remove myself from the daily emotional churn entirely. No arguing. No defending. No late-night circular debates about tone. I blocked her on messaging apps too. Then on social media. Not to punish her. To create silence. I slept fine that night. The next morning there were emails in my inbox. She had switched channels. The subject line of the first one was wow. The second one was you are unbelievable. The third was longer. And that is when I realized she was not furious because I was upset. She was furious because I was not. I did not reply to the emails either. I read them once, calmly, and then archived them. The tone shifted with each message. The first few were angry. She said I was immature and trying to manipulate her. She said blocking someone is what teenagers do. Then the narrative changed. She said she did not understand what she did that was so wrong. She said it was just a jacket and a drink. She said I was blowing it out of proportion. I noticed she never addressed the part about calling me too sensitive. Or the real men comment. That was treated like it never happened. By midday, she tried calling from a different number. I let it ring. I knew it was her because of the area code and because she immediately followed up with another email saying I know you saw that. That was the first time I felt even a flicker of doubt. Not about the decision. About whether I should formalize it. So I sent one final email. Short and clear. I said I am not angry. I am not trying to control you. You are free to spend time wherever you like. I am choosing not to be in a relationship where my discomfort is reframed as weakness. I wish you well. Then I blocked her email too. An hour later she was at my building. The concierge called up to say there was a woman downstairs asking to come up. I asked for her name even though I knew. When he said Amanda, I told him not to let her up. He hesitated and asked if everything was okay. I said yes. We are just not together anymore. Saying it out loud made it real. And oddly simple. She waited outside for about 20 minutes. I watched from the window once, and then stepped back. I was not going to perform a scene in the lobby. That evening one of our mutual friends texted me asking what the hell I had done. Apparently Amanda had told people I ghosted her over nothing. I did not correct the story. Because technically, I had done exactly what she asked. I stopped being sensitive. The next 2 days were quiet on my end, and apparently chaotic on hers. I did not check her social media, but friends filled in enough. She told people I had a fragile ego. That I could not handle her having a past. That I exploded because she had a drink with someone she used to date. Exploded is generous. I did not raise my voice once. By Saturday morning another friend, Tom, called me directly. He said Amanda was saying I locked her out and refused to talk. I told him that part was accurate. He asked if there was more to it. I said yes. I explained the comment about real men and being too sensitive. I explained that I set one boundary and she reframed it as weakness. Tom was quiet for a second and then said that sounded like Amanda. Not cruel exactly, but competitive. Like everything was a test. That word stuck with me. Test. Looking back, the jacket was probably irrelevant. It was the framing. If I objected, I was insecure. If I stayed calm, I was acceptable. The only winning move was not to play. That afternoon, Amanda tried one last method. She emailed my work account. That irritated me more than anything else. My job is separate. I keep it that way intentionally. The email was longer than the others. She said she could not believe I would throw away nearly 2 years over pride. She said I was proving her right about men being emotionally stunted. She said adults talk things through instead of disappearing. I replied once, from my work account, because I did not want back and forth. I said this is not about pride. You told me how you define strength. I am behaving accordingly. I do not accept being mocked for expressing discomfort. I do not want to debate this further. Please do not contact me at work again. Then I blocked that address too. An hour later, she sent a message through Tom asking if I was really ending it. I told him yes. And that was the first time she stopped sounding angry and started sounding rattled. By Sunday evening, the tone shifted completely. Instead of messages relayed through friends, Amanda showed up at my gym. Not inside, but outside by the entrance. She knew my schedule. I train at the same time most weekends. She was leaning against the brick wall, arms crossed, like she had rehearsed the pose. When she saw me, she did not look angry. She looked controlled. She said we needed to talk like adults. I told her we already had. She said no. I had overreacted and then escalated. I reminded her I had not yelled, insulted, or interrogated. I had simply stepped back. That is not stepping back, she said. That is disappearing. I told her there is a difference between discussing boundaries and being told that having them makes you less of a man. I said I am not interested in staying in a dynamic where my reactions are graded. She rolled her eyes again, but this time it felt forced. She said the real issue was that I could not handle competition. That Kyle was part of her life before me, and I needed to grow up. I asked her directly if she planned to keep spending time alone at his flat. She hesitated for half a second, and then said she was not going to cut off people just because I was uncomfortable. That was enough. I told her then we are aligned. You value that freedom. I value not being in that position. There is no argument left. She switched tactics. Said I was throwing away something good. Said couples compromise. Said I was being extreme. I said compromise would have been meeting him in public, or acknowledging that the situation might reasonably bother your partner. What she wanted was immunity from criticism. Her voice got sharper. She said I was trying to punish her by acting detached. I told her I was not punishing anyone. I was removing myself. When I walked past her toward the car park, she said this is not how adults handle conflict. I stopped and said quietly, adults also do not mock their partners for expressing boundaries. Then I left. After the gym confrontation, I assumed that was the end of it. I had been clear. There was no shouting, no ambiguity, no mixed signals. We wanted different relationship structures. That was it. But on Tuesday evening, she tried one more angle. She sent me a handwritten letter through the post. I recognized her handwriting immediately. No return address. Just my name. I almost threw it away without opening it, but curiosity won. The tone was different again. Softer. She said she felt blindsided. That she thought I was stronger than this. That she admired how calm I usually was and did not expect me to shut down over something so small. That phrase again. Something so small. She framed it like I had collapsed under minor pressure. Like my reaction was evidence of fragility rather than a decision. Then came the part that clarified everything. She wrote that if I had just trusted her completely, none of this would have happened. That a confident man would not feel threatened by an ex. There it was. The test. Trust in her definition meant unconditional tolerance. No discomfort. No negotiation. No pushback. If I expressed any unease, I failed. I sat with that for about 10 minutes. Not angry. Just analytical. Because here is the part she did not anticipate. I was not threatened by Kyle. I was evaluating Amanda. And what I saw was someone who equated dominance with strength. Someone who needed to win even in small relational moments. I did not respond to the letter. Instead, I gathered the few items of hers still at my flat. A pair of shoes. Some toiletries. A jumper. I put them in a box and left them with the concierge the next morning with her name on it. No note. No message. Just logistics. By the time she picked it up, the silence between us was no longer an argument. It was a conclusion. When she collected the box from the concierge, she did not leave quietly. The concierge told me later that she stood in the lobby for a few minutes, reading my name on the label like she expected there to be more. A note. An explanation. Some sign that this was temporary. There was not. That evening I received one final email from a new address. It was shorter than the others. She said I was cold. That I had flipped a switch without warning. That healthy relationships require communication, not ultimatums. I did not respond. I read it once and closed the tab. There was nothing new in it. The same framing. I was extreme. I was dramatic. I had overreacted to something small. According to her, I had weaponized silence to punish her. But silence was the point. If I answered, we would be back in the same circular debate about tone and masculinity and whether I was strong enough to tolerate whatever she defined as harmless. Any reply would invite another round of reframing. Another attempt to drag the conversation into whether I was insecure instead of whether she had been dismissive. So I chose not to engage. By the end of that week, our mutual friends had stopped trying to mediate. The version circulating was that we had different expectations, which is accurate enough. Amanda wanted a boyfriend who would not flinch, no matter the context. Someone who would prove his confidence by absorbing discomfort without comment. I decided that the only way to truly be unbothered was to remove myself entirely. No speeches. No negotiations. No final dramatic exchange. Just absence. It has been 3 months since all of that happened. There was no dramatic reconciliation attempt. No late-night confession. No accidental run in where emotions spilled over. Once I stopped responding, the attempts tapered off. A couple of indirect messages through friends asking if I was really done. I did not engage. Life returned to its normal rhythm quickly. Work, gym, evenings that felt quiet but not tense. That is the difference I noticed most. The absence of tension. I had not realized how often I was calibrating my reactions to avoid being labeled sensitive. In hindsight, the ex was almost irrelevant. If it had not been Kyle, it would have been something else. A work event. A male friend. Some scenario where my reaction could be tested and graded. What bothered me was not that she went to his flat. It was that when I expressed reasonable discomfort, she framed it as weakness. That is not partnership. That is positioning. A few weeks ago, I heard through Tom that Amanda is now officially back with Kyle. Apparently, they reconnected properly after we split. That information did not sting the way people expected it to. It confirmed my instinct. The overlap was not imaginary. Do I think she cheated physically while we were together? I do not know. And honestly, it does not matter. The issue was never proof. It was respect. When she said real men do not get upset, she assumed I would scramble to prove her wrong by staying. By competing. By demonstrating how unfazed I could be while still investing emotionally. Instead, I showed her what completely unbothered actually looks like. No arguments. No revenge. No social media subtweets. No drawn-out closure talks. Just a clean exit. If you are asking whether I regret it, I do not. A relationship where you have to defend your right to feel something is already unstable. She wanted someone who would not react. I chose not to participate at all.